The conference booking system had crashed. The storm had swallowed 3 flights. And Marcus Webb was standing at a hotel front desk in Charlotte, North Carolina, at 11:30 at night, with his heart sinking into his shoes as the clerk delivered the one piece of news that could make this already brutal week even worse. There was exactly 1 room left in the entire hotel, 1 king bed, 1 bathroom, 1 set of towels, and his boss, Diana Caldwell, was standing right behind him. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the kind of stories that remind you why being human still matters, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to the Kindness channel and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. And before we go any further, drop a comment and tell us where in the world are you watching this from. We want to know your corner of the world. Marcus had been grinding through life on borrowed energy for 3 years, since the night his wife Elena walked out of their apartment with 2 suitcases and a lawyer's business card. He had been doing everything alone, packing school lunches at 5:30 in the morning, rushing from the office to after-school pickup, reading bedtime stories with the kind of exhausted love that only single parents understand. His son, Caleb, was 7 years old, full of questions about dinosaurs and black holes and why Daddy's eyes always looked a little tired even when he was smiling. Marcus never had a good answer for that last one. He just smiled wider and hoped it was enough. The job at Caldwell Associates had been a lifeline. It wasn't glamorous work, corporate logistics consulting, spreadsheets and supply chains and conference calls that ran 40 minutes longer than they needed to. But it paid well enough to keep the lights on, to afford Mrs. Ray's next door, who watched Caleb on late nights, to put a little away each month in a savings account labeled simply College Caleb. Marcus worked hard and kept his head down because that was what you did when someone else was depending entirely on you. You didn't complain. You didn't ask for special treatment. You showed up. Diana Caldwell was not an easy boss. She was sharp, exacting, and operated on a frequency of perpetual high performance that exhausted everyone around her. She wasn't cruel, she was just relentless. The kind of woman who sent emails at 6 in the morning and expected thoughtful replies by 7. Marcus respected her even when she frustrated him, because underneath the hard professional exterior he could see someone who cared deeply about doing things right. She just didn't know how to slow down long enough to be human about it. The business trip to Charlotte had been routine until it wasn't. The Regional Supply Chain Summit was supposed to be 2 days of meetings, a shared company dinner, and flights home by Friday evening. Then the storm came. It wasn't a hurricane, just a fierce, determined October system that turned the sky the color of bruised steel and grounded planes across the entire southeast. The hotel they had booked with half the company's regional staff suddenly found itself overrun, rooms reassigned, reservations scrambled. By the time Marcus and Diana finished the last session of the day and made it to the desk to confirm their individual rooms, the clerk was already apologizing before they even asked the question. 1 room. 1 king bed, 2 colleagues standing in the lobby of a mid-range Charlotte hotel at nearly midnight, soaking wet from the walk across the parking lot, each of them carrying the weight of a very long day on their shoulders. Diana had said it the way she said most things matter-of-factly, without flinching. She said they were both professionals, both adults, that it was a large bed, and that they had an 8 o'clock call in the morning. She wasn't suggesting anything inappropriate. She was solving a logistical problem the way she always solved problems efficiently, without drama. She expected Marcus to agree. It was the obvious solution. It was what any 2 reasonable adults in a professional situation would simply accept and move past. Marcus stood very still for a moment. The lobby hummed with the noise of stranded travelers, rolling suitcases, and a television mounted near the ceiling cycling through storm coverage. He thought about how he would explain this to no one, because there was no one at home to explain it to. He thought about Caleb, asleep right now in his Jurassic Park pajamas, with the little dinosaur print that was starting to fade from too many washes. He thought about the version of himself he was trying to be, not just for promotions or performance reviews, but for his son, who was watching everything, absorbing everything, building his entire understanding of what a man was supposed to look like from the single example in front of him every day. He turned to Diana and told her to take the room. He would figure something else out. He said it calmly, without accusation, without making her feel like she had suggested something wrong because she hadn't. He just said that it wasn't the right situation for him, and that he respected himself and respected her enough to find another option rather than put either of them in a position that felt uncomfortable, even if only quietly so. He said he'd check a few other hotels nearby, maybe find a couch in the lobby if he had to, and not to worry about the morning call because he would be there, sharp at 8, no excuses. Diana stared at him, not the way people stare when they are offended, the way people stare when something genuinely surprises them, when a moment cuts through the fog of daily routine and lands somewhere deeper. She had spent 15 years in corporate environments watching people make the convenient choice, the expedient choice, the choice that required the least courage. She had watched men and women compromise small pieces of themselves over and over in the name of practicality. She had probably done it herself more times than she could count. And here was this quiet, tired man, this single father, who she knew worked harder than almost anyone on her team, and never once asked for recognition, choosing the harder things simply because it aligned with who he was trying to be. She didn't say much in that moment. She told him to wait. She made a phone call, 20 minutes later, through a contact she had at a sister property across town. She had secured him a separate room at the company's expense, and arranged for a car to take him there and back in the morning. She did it without fanfare, without making it into something larger than it was. But before he walked out into the rain toward the waiting car, she stopped him at the door and said something he would think about for a long time afterward. She told him that Caleb was lucky. That was all, just that. Marcus sat in the back of that car in the dark, watching the storm move through the city streets, and felt something loosen in his chest that had been wound tight for years. Not because of the room or the gesture or even the words, but because he had made a choice that he could look back on, could look his son in the eye about someday without flinching. In a world that constantly rewarded the convenient and punished the principled, he had chosen who he wanted to be and discovered that it cost less than he feared and meant more than he expected. 3 months later, Diana Caldwell promoted Marcus to Regional Operations Director. In the meeting where she told him, she didn't mention Charlotte. She talked about his track record, his integrity, his consistency under pressure. But as he left her office, she smiled in a way that told him she remembered that some choices, the quiet ones, the ones no one is watching, are exactly the ones that define the shape of a person. Before we reach the end, drop a comment below and tell us, what would you have done in Marcus' place? We genuinely want to know. There is a version of strength that looks like endurance, showing up every day, doing the work, carrying the weight without complaint. And then there is a version that looks like a man standing in a hotel lobby, soaking wet, choosing dignity over convenience, not because anyone was watching, but because a 7-year-old boy in dinosaur pajamas deserved a father whose choices he could be proud of someday. That kind of strength doesn't make the news. It doesn't go viral, but it shapes everything slowly, quietly, the way all the most important things do. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you know, or the person you're trying to be, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Kindness for more stories that restore your faith in people. You being here matters more than you know.